Thank you, Peter, for your introduction. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. It's my pleasure and privilege to be here to attend this conference and to give you all this presentation. Since this is the last presentation before the coffee break, I try to keep it short. So it will take about 10 minutes to give you some ideas from a freight forwarder or 3PO's perspective. What is the up-to-date market trend, and what is the challenge in the supply chain management. This is me, to give you some self-introduction. I was born and raised in Taipei, Taiwan. I was born in 1976, so you know my age now. And Taipei is also where I had my bachelor degree at a university, as my major was economics. I never know that there's one day I'm going to pursue my career in logistics. Okay, and of course, everybody has their own stories how to get into the logistics industry, all right? And of course, I finished my military service after my graduation from the university. Then one of my colleagues, very close friends, introduced me and said, "Why don't you join Dimerco?" I said, "What? Who's Dimerco?" Nobody knows what is freight forwarder is doing. Okay, when I go back home, talk to my mother thought I was going to be a truck driver. Okay, so that's how my logistic career started. I started in Taipei, and also I spent 2 years in Shanghai. And in 2008, I landed in Amsterdam. I take over the country manager function of Dimerco Express in the Netherlands. In 2012, I take over the regional function and to look after the regional development for Dimerco in Europe, including the current presence that we have in the Netherlands and the UK. To give you a profile, who is Dimerco? Dimerco is a Taiwanese-based and public listed freight forwarding company since 1971. Currently, we have 150 cell phone office worldwide with 2,000 employees and nearly 600 million revenue in 2014. And we are positioning ourselves, as you can see the bottom of the slide, China and Asian logistics specialist. So since Asia Pacific is our core market, so first I would like to share with you, take a look, what is the economic outlook in that region. In 2015, the average GDP growth in Asia Pacific region is 5.5%. And that includes 2.1% from advanced Asia, that is including Japan, Hong Kong, and Australia, and 6.7% from the rest emerging and developing Asia, that is including China. Apart from that, 5.2% from Asian 5. Right now we have Asian 5, we have 10+1, we have lots of, let's say, different country alliance in that particular region. So Asian 5 is represented by Thailand, Malaysia, Indonesia, Philippines, and Vietnam. So what we are seeing, of course, in that particular region, there are some economic challenges. First is the decline of the export. In the past year, the export from Asia has been the driver of the world economic growth. However, since mid of 2014, the region, including, for example, Japan, high-tech industry, Korea and Taiwan's expertise in the electronics, and also China, final assembling all of the products. They assemble nearly a quarter of all the goods shipped around the world, export. But now things appear to be slowing. And for example, South Korea export fell by 8.1% in April from the same month as a year earlier, which was actually the worst figures in the past 2 years. And China were down 6.4% as well. And so does Taiwan and Japan are limping along. And the second challenge that we're seeing is the currency fluctuation. And when US dollar is getting strong, appreciating since end of last year, as it has been, the value of exporting from Asia to US has been increasing. However, the export from Asia to other countries appear to shrink, obviously. And that is not contribute for the world economics as we see US as single country, they only buy actually 15% of Asia exports. The third economic challenge that we're seeing is the poverty and the economic inequalities. And despite of the high economic growth, this has become a very critical issue at all of the Asian Pacific country level. A couple of days I just see on the news that there are in that particular region, there are still 700 million people in Asia Pacific are living at a cost less than $1 per day. So what are the actions that we are recommend in that particular region? First is to eliminate the structural barriers. The government, as well as we running for the business, are taking policy or the strategy to reform needed to create jobs and foster inclusive growth, and open physical spaces to stimulate economic growth, develop social supports, provide greater access to education and the public services. Okay, so let's talk about supply chain. All right, we have been go through all of the presentation this morning, and we all understand right now the supply chain has been changing, and now it has been much more complicated than before. And sorry, I need to use this word again, Mark. The collaboration, all right? This is what we are thinking, the collaboration, of course, the working together to create mutual benefit is kind of the key concept of the supply chain in nowadays. We already see lots of examples from those of the multinational customer who purchase from different suppliers all over the world and how sophisticated it is. And also multi-tier of suppliers is even in the same as a freight forwarder point of view. So we take one example, the building of the 787 Dreamliners. The Dreamliners, as of April 2015, there are in total 259 Dreamliners have been built. And you can see it is actually a global effort. The companies from the 4 continents produce parts and pre-assemble the plant's largest components, and then pre-assembled sections are shipped to the Boeing headquarters, which is in Everett in Washington. And from there, they take 3 days to snap all the major sections together, while in the previous, the traditional process, it will take a month. So right now, this is also a change of the supply chains, and you can see from the pictures and how each part from different color were produced across the world. So this is to give you a further insight of all the Dreamliner part manufacturers. As a logistics service provider, as a freight forwarder like us, this has been a topic to be discussed all the time, to be either assets-based or non-assets-based. I still remember when I started to do the freight forwarding business, when I go into a customer, the customer first question is, do you have your own warehousing? Do you have your own trucks? And do you have your own, of course, any of the assets? But nowadays, of course, we see all those challenges in the supply chains, and to become non-assets freight forwarders or third-party logistics service provider is to enable us to react the change of the market much more faster. Therefore, we have been positioning ourselves as non-assets-based logistics service provider. So here's the STP. We have of course, the market segmentation is air, ocean, heavy lift, freight cargoes. Before me, we have ocean freight specialists. We also have air freight specialists. For freight forwarder, we do everything. We do air, ocean, road freight, custom brokerage, and warehousing. But probably not everything through our own. So that's why we set up a multi-tier of suppliers as an integrator to satisfy customers' needs. And for the targeting, of course, our target is China, Asia, Oceania, and here Western Europe and North America. And for the positioning, here to emphasize again, we are China, Asia logistics specialists. So what are the current challenges for freight forwarders or 3PL? For freight forwarders, it's very important to talk about network expansion, okay? Because all of the customers, they want a service provider to have a very wide and deep, either global and local coverage. So when we are selecting to enter a new market, first is always to have a PESTEL analysis that include political, environmental, social, technological, economic, and legal, which is pretty much the same as the topic that we touched this morning. Let's take a look in the political. This is always the first factor we consider. I still remember when Dimerco entered China market in early 90, when that China government was inhibited any of the, let's say, foreign capital to start a freight forwarding business in that period. So actually in that time, I was told by some of my senior colleagues that we were actually working in someone's house and typing airway bill. Yeah, we were unable to have our own, but everything had been changed due to the change of the politics. Of course, in mid of after late 90s and beginning of 2000, they allowed to have a foreign capital as a freight forwarder to start a joint venture company, but your equity should not be more than 50%. And by the time of 2004, then they allow you to raise up your percentage up to 75%. So that is also kind of change of the politics, which will change our business strategies. Second, environmental, climate change. We talk about flood, hurricane this morning. I still remember I actually started to live in Europe in 2009. In 2010, there was a very big issue that disrupted the air freight. That was the Iceland volcano ash. And at that time, I received a call from a CEO and say, "What is your contingency plan?" I say, at that time, I only lived in Europe for like less than 1 year. I don't even know geographically where Iceland is. And he asked me for a contingency plans. But of course, it took me several days, and we figured it out. So at that time, of course, we run a couple of charters going to Central Europe, or either we fly into a US East Coast, and then we take by boat or ocean freight, get into Western Europe. So that particular time for air freight industry is actually lost for $1.7 billion due to the Iceland volcano. Social. As a 3PL, right now we are having, let's say, the workflows in a global place. I remember when I started to do business here in the Europe, especially in the Netherlands, when I talked to the buyers, talked to the customer, local Dutch customers, most of the buyers, they are local or Dutch nationality. But right now I have seen those changes, especially for big buyers or big importers. They have been changing their buyer team into a multinational nationality. So I'm dealing not only with Dutch people, I'm dealing with Chinese nationality, US nationality, I'm dealing with Indian nationality. So that is reflecting, of course, the change of their supply chain from a local perspective into a global perspective. So that is also something, a challenge that we are seeing, how we communicate across different culture and accommodations among the different generations. Technology. We have been repeating this a lot, and technology, of course, IT has been a very essential point as a logistics service provider nowadays. Economics. Okay. My last topic is to give you some new market chain and the change of the focus from a freight forwarder or 3PL, and the cross-border e-commerce. All right, this is called the EBEC. It's very complicated. Okay, and the cross-border e-commerce is not something new. It's not something. It's actually been happening in China since 2010. All right, it's not something new when Alibaba go public in U.S. stock market, or Jack Ma become famous or seen on the TV news for most of the time. And as you can see from the chart, that the growth of these particular trade module have been growing more than 20% year over year. And in 2017, it is predicted that the total trading value of the e-commerce goods will be 23% of the total value of the China import and export. So, of course, that changed the focus as a freight forwarder's perspective. This is going to give you some structures and B2B and B2C percentage. And for our highlights, of course, consumer in China actually is consumer globally are purchasing more and more from through the internet. And the second is the B2C module has become more and more popular in China for the ECBC. So as a freight forwarder, previously we pretty much 99% focus on B2B business. All right, but right now, because of this new market chain, we need to leverage different tier of suppliers in order to provide customer, let's say, one-stop shopping. We work with different post provider, different warehouse operator, or different airline, different carriers, in order to get this move. So let's okay. The next part is to talk about IT. We all know that right now it's very important. So as a 3PL or freight forwarder, we also have a very strong commitment in the investment of the IT and the deployment of the IT. And we, of course, focus on three major aspects. The first is the collaborations with all of our suppliers and partners. So this touch to the point, for example, like e-freight or paperless or custom manifest, and so on and so on. The second is our internal process optimization. This is to reduce and to increase our working efficiency. The third one, the last one, and the most important one is the visibility. The visibility for the customer. So as a conclusion, IT is playing the very important and probably the most important role in the future as a 3PL or a freight forwarder. Thank you very much.